As you can probably tell from my backdrop and my entire room, I am a fan of playing video games, but I have a pretty complicated relationship with video games, and I can illustrate that on something I like to call the work-play compulsion scale. So as you can see here, it looks like a teeter-totter, and if I had my priorities in order and acted in the way that I wanted to act on a daily basis, then I would work for a certain amount of hours and then play video games for a certain amount of hours, and I would be nicely placed in the middle. But unfortunately, I find myself slanted over onto the work side, and my work tends to bleed into the time that I would want to be gaming. However, this video isn't about my particular problem with video gaming, it's about the problems for the people on the other side of that teeter-totter, the people who find that video games start seeping into their work time, the time they should be studying or getting homework done. If you find yourself in that area and video games are a major distraction to getting your work done, then this video is for you, and I've got 5 tips to help you start pulling yourself more into that middle area. So tip number 1, and I think this is probably the most important tip in the entire video, which is why it's going first, and it's to simply set up an environment for studying that is only for studying. Now, if you saw my video that summarized Marty Lobdell's Study Less, Study Smart lecture, you'll know that I talked about how environmental cues and the context of the situation we're in actually largely defines our behavior. One detail from the lecture that I didn't talk about in that video was a study done at the University of Hawaii, which actually looks like this, where researchers wanted to figure out if they could improve students' grades by changing their environment. So they did one simple thing. They told students to turn their desks around in their dorms towards one wall and put a sticky note labeled study area on the lamp next to their desk. The students were instructed to only use this desk for studying, and everything else, all other activities, had to take place somewhere else. And what do you think happened? Well, in comparison to the control group of students who didn't do this, the students that did do it had an average of a 1.0 GPA increase. So the action item here for you should be pretty clear. Find an area that is different from your gaming area and do your studying there. For instance, the temptation to game out here, not that big. Likewise, the temptation to play games in the library or a coffee shop is probably going to be a lot less than the temptation to play games in your living room or at your computer that has Steam installed. Tip number 2 is to increase the friction involved in getting into a video game. So the idea here is to increase the difficulty and the amount of steps involved into getting into a distracting activity and basically make doing your work the more attractive option in that case. So one way you can do this is by actually creating a different account on your computer for work and only installing the programs you need for work on that computer. And you can also set up extensions like Stay Focused or programs like Focal Filter to reduce the amount of distracting web browsing you do as well. My third tip is to simply game after you're done working for the day. Use gaming as a reward, and this kind of goes back to the concept of high density fun that I talked about in last week's video. Use the anticipation of a long gaming session later on in the day as a motivator to get your work done more efficiently now. Tip number 4 is to play games that work well with your schedule. So if you're really busy and you have a lot of studying to do, then it might not be the best idea to get invested in a 120-hour JRPG or a super long WoW raid. On the other hand, playing a few sessions of Smash Brothers with your friends is probably not going to suck up a whole ton of your time. So just be mindful of the real-world commitments you have and select your games accordingly. And tip number 5 is my favorite tip because it's actually fun, and it's to simply turn your life into a game. You can actually reduce the compulsion to play lots of video games if your life feels like a game itself. And the best way to do this is to simply set goals that are specific and that you're actually stoked to achieve. Now, I do this on a page on my website called my Impossible List, which you can find linked down in the description actually. And basically I break my entire life down into different sections and set goals for each one. Every time I achieve a goal, I cross it off, but I also iterate on that goal and make something a little bit harder. So I'm essentially leveling up in every category. You can also use tools like Fitocracy or Habit RPG to actually track your habits and gain real stats and actually kind of play a real game while improving your life at the same time. So hopefully you'll find these 5 tips useful enough to take gaming from an unproductive distraction to a healthy habit. If you find that your own gaming habits are still really hard to break though, there's actually some online communities that I'd suggest you check out. And over on Reddit, there's one called Stop Gaming, as well as No Wow. And there's also a site called quitlol.com, which is specifically for people who play League of Legends, but I think it has some useful information. I'd also like to give a quick shout out to both some of the members in the College Info Geek Habit RPG Guild and some people over at the r/getstudying Reddit. They both helped me flesh out the ideas for this video, and I'll link to both of them in the companion blog post. So that's it for this video. If you've got any additional suggestions or experiences of your own for making gaming less of a distracting habit, then let me know down in the comments. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Hey there, and thanks for watching my video on balancing gaming and your studies. Now, if you want to get more videos every single week on being an awesome college student, then click that big red subscribe button right there. And also, if you want to get a free 100+ page book on getting awesome grades, click the picture of the book right there and I'll send you a copy. You can also get a summary and links to any resources I mentioned in the video by going to the companion blog post right there. And if you missed last week's video, there's a clip of it playing, so definitely check it out. Lastly, if you have any ideas for new videos or just want to connect, I'm on Twitter @TomFrankly, or you can leave a comment on this video. Thanks.